Okay, thank you so much for waiting. We really had to wait for other people to join us. We would not want a situation whereby some people are missing out. So right now we have a number of persons here with us, so we can start. So I want to say thank you again to everyone here for taking out the time to join this series. So I'm just going to take a minute to talk to us about what the behavior code is. So the behavior code is a bi-weekly hybrid learning series or engagement series that has been developed by the Behavioral Insight Network of the Policy Innovation Center, PIC. So it's a community of practice, and we are looking forward to building a community whereby people learn to use behavioral nudges, behavioral insights, behavioral science to navigate through life, right? So this TBC, the behavior code is an opportunity. It's a series whereby we're going to talk about how we can use behavior to experience life generally. So one thing I need us all to know is that the series has examined common patterns in human behavior. We've taken out time to look at why people make some certain decisions, their motivations, their habits, the kind of relationships they keep, their emotional responses, anything you can think of. And this series, what it does again is that it offers evidence based perspectives to how small nudges, small changes, strategic changes can improve the outcome of people, both in their professional life and in their personal life as well. So, by connecting real life challenges in areas as personal growth, communication, finances. Finance is very important. We like money, right? Career, well-being, relationships, our social interactions. This TBC series aims at making behavioral science very practical. If you look at the flyer, you would see that our choice of topic is very deliberate. We don't want something so elaborate. We're thinking about it. We went for a topic that everybody can relate to as human beings. So the TBC series is really aimed at making behavioral science practical to not just our community members in the Behavioral Insight Network, but to everybody listening to me right now. So you don't have to, it's not, how do I put it now? You don't have to be a member of the BIN community to participate in this TBC, but I know that after participating in this series, you want to be a member of our community. Yes, that's the aim. So participation in this series is open to everybody. It's open to diverse people, individuals. As far as you're curious on how human behavior can be applied to your everyday life, as far as you're curious on how you can improve your personal life with behavioral science, this is a place for you. Okay, so let's take a minute. I'm going to share. I'm going to share a link for us to take this icebreaker. Okay, I'm displaying it right now on the chat box. Just click on it, and it will take you there. This is our icebreaker. So I need you to take a minute to just click on the link and answer the question there. So I'm going to read out the question right away. I'm clicking on it as well. I'm dropping my own answer as well. Okay. I don't know if you can also drop your messages on, you can drop your messages on the group. So in one word, how did your smartest, dumbest moment make you feel? We know that today we're talking about the fact that smart people also make dumb decisions. I mean, they're human beings. So I want to just know in one word, that's what's it called now? want to just know in one word, that smart, dumb thing you ever had to do, or the decision you made and how it made you feel. If it made you feel sad, if it made you feel disappointed, if it made you feel heartbroken. Yes. So we just want to know how it made you feel. Quickly. Are you clicking on the link? Are you? Because I want this. I would like this to be very interactive as possible. Just your answers are really anonymous, so I'm not going to get to know what you said. Just let us know in one word. Um, yeah. Okay, still loading. Disappointed or sad. Some people, their smart, their smartest dumbest decision made them happy. So if you're that person, you can let us know quickly. Okay. All right. I hope to see our responses quickly. Okay. Right. So I don't know how many of us have been able to click on the link and respond to that. Okay, so thank you so much for taking out the time to fill in that question. Thank you for letting us in on how you felt when you made a very bad, very dumb, smart decision. At this point, I need us to know that our facilitator is ready. He has everything in store for us, and I'm sure he's really excited to share with us. So I want us to listen with an open mind, be expectant as well, because this session is going to be really, really, really insightful. And I'm hoping that you have your notepads ready. So please, I would like Mr. Femi to join us. Mr. Femi is the Senior Programs Officer of the Behavioral Insight Network, and he's really excited to be here. So he's going to be taking this session for us. Okay, Mr. Femi, over to you, please.
All right, thank you very much, Rebecca. Please confirm you can hear me. You're muted, please. I think you're muted.
Yes, we can hear you.
All right, great. I see someone said in the Q&A box or section that they cannot see the link. And then it would be nice if you're able to display the responses at some point so that everybody can see what people are saying. So are you able to do that? If you can, it would be great.
I'll do that at the end of the session. I'll display the responses.
Okay, all right, that's fine. So, but for those who say they couldn't see the link, are you sure everyone could see the chat? Because I saw someone saying that she couldn't see the link. Because they started that.
I'm going to share it again. I'm going to share it again.
Confirm the folks are seeing your chats, right? So that way, we really are engaging. Yeah. All right. So very well. I'll just go straight up to the conversation. Thank you very much.
Okay,
and all right, thanks. So Rebecca, you introduced me as Senior Program Officer for Behavioral Insights Network. No, BIN doesn't have a program officer. It is the Behavioral Innovation Lab, of course, of PIC that has a program officer. And that's fine. It's okay. You won't be arrested for that. Okay, so I'll just go straight to the conversation. Again, this is a very engaging, simple conversation that we're going to have. And it's our very first webinar in the Behavior Code, which is the bi-weekly webinar series of the Behavioral Insights Network. I'm sure Rebecca will come back and say a little more about the network after this conversation. So I'm just going to have a very short conversation around the interesting subject, perhaps 15-20 minutes max, and then I opened up the floor for responses and chats and comments. I would love the host to ensure that I can see the chat from everyone, not just the host and panelists, so that way I'm able to engage directly to. I really appreciate that if that can be done. I'll just share my screen right away. And over the next 10 minutes or 15, over the next 15 minutes or thereabouts, I'll just share some very interesting thoughts around this subject. And once we do that, then I'll open up the floor for reactions and feedback and responses so we can move on. I'm sure we're going to learn and have an exciting time right here. So just sharing my screen 1 minute. All right. Confirm that you can see my screen.
Yes, I see your screen clearly.
Okay, good. So I'm going on to presentation mode right now. All right, so let's just get on to it. So why do smart people make dumb decisions? Well, don't mind that image there, it says dumb, but not saying a way to insult anyone. It's just the reality of sometimes how we feel when you realize that, oh boy, why did I do that? Oh, wow, what just happened? And like they typically say that vision is 20/20 with the benefit of hindsight, right? So when you look back, you're like, gosh, come on. But it's a beautiful thing anyway, if you do get that feeling. I dare say that if you don't get this feeling sometimes, then something is really, really wrong, yeah, about your decisions that you've made in the past or whatnot. So we just run through, these are the 4 critical things I want us to talk on or touch on. We'll just do this quickly. First of all, a simple look at the power of decisions. Secondly, and very importantly, I would look at those fundamental rules guiding decision-making, especially from the behavioral insight lens. And thirdly, we'll examine a few biases that are common that influence our decision-making. And then finally, we'll talk about some small changes that can help you avoid poor decision-making in everyday life. Again, remember that what is important for us in the behavior code is to explore how behavioral insights can apply to everyday life and help you improve your everyday life, whether it is career or work or relationship or your health or your finances or your personal growth or development or your mental health, as the case may apply, right? Because when you hear BI a lot of times or behavioral insights a lot of times, it tends to look like something that is in the clouds, right? But we realize that it's important for people to be able to relate with the simple concepts and the fundamentals of behavioral insights and how it can influence or affect you everyday life. So let's move on. First of all, power decisions. I'll talk about 3 important things that are critical along this line. The first important thing to bear in mind is this, and you'll agree with me, that our choices shape our outcomes, right? And you can't live any better than your decisions. Where you are right now is a function of the choices you've made in the past or even this morning. And I think it's one of the very important things about self-awareness, right? Because sometimes we tend to absolve the responsibility of our circumstance to anybody or people or those who are outsiders. I was having a conversation with my wife yesterday, and she was narrating how she was in taxi, spoke to the driver about where she was going, and then a passenger, hearing what she said, told the driver to stop. And then the passenger came down from the vehicle. Only for a few minutes later, my wife got to where she was going. The passenger that dropped also now got to the same destination. Apparently, we're going to the same place. And the passenger now came to my wife and said, hey, you confused me by what you said to the driver. And so my wife was like, I wasn't talking to you. So why put your confusion on me, right? Why pass the bulk of your confusion? I didn't mention your name. I was talking to the driver. So how is that your problem, right? Very funny. But that's the general thing about human behavior. We tend to absolve, unconsciously sometimes, absolve the responsibility of our current circumstances to people and the externals. But we fail to realize that truly, a lot of times our circumstances and our experiences are a function of our choices, and you really can't live any better than them. Of course, there are some other, life is a lot more complex, of course, and there are times where you can find yourself in situations that was not directly a function of your choice or your decision-making, but largely in life, you realize that your outcomes are shaped by your decisions. The second important thing to bear in mind is that we make a lot of decisions every day. Daniel Kahneman of blessed memory now, if I can say that, in his book, Thinking Fast and Slow, mentions that we make over 35,000 decisions every day, and many of those decisions are unconscious. In other words, you're not even very you're not very conscious of the decision you're making. You're just on autopilot, and you're making a decision, making that decision, and just moving very fast. But that's very important, because if our decisions, majority of our decisions are unconscious, then I think it is vital that we tend to learn the dynamics, or pay attention to the dynamics that control or guide the decision-making process, right? When we understand that, we might be able to make better decisions, of course. And then the third and important thing that you can see there is a smartness does not make you immune from error or poor decision making. In fact, the smarter you are, the more likely the chances of you being biased in your decisions by different things. Okay, sometimes because of overconfidence, you can be biased based on that, or you can be biased because you're just a smart person, and then you have your this. I mean, I don't want to start getting too technical here, but different things. Dunning-Kruger effect, where sometimes it's even ignorance. Sometimes the fact that you know a lot in a particular area, you tend to suffer from what you call the halo effect, or the halo effect, where you then think you're good in several things, whereas you're ignorant in those things, and you're overconfident. And that can affect your decision making. So smart people, the smarter you are, the more likely the chances of being subject to biases. That's quite ironical, right? But that's the reality of life and decision making. But it's very important for us to bear these things in mind. Now, we talk about some fundamental rules. I'll limit it to 3. There are lots of them, but just limit it to 3 here, looking at some fundamental rules that guide decision making, especially through the behavioral insight lens. And the first thing, and this will be common to those, or this will be very familiar with people who either you read a lot, or you just know some of these things. So yeah, within a BI network or BI ecosystem, you'll understand some of these things, but these are fundamental, very fundamental. Number 1 is what you call heuristics, that is mental shortcuts. And the truth is, every single one of us rely on mental shortcuts, every single person. And mental shortcuts are very helpful. In fact, it is one of the ways in which the brain ensures that it is efficient, right? Because the brain cannot always go through that. The brain is optimized to help you make very quick decisions, right? Because of the environment and the dynamic nature of life, living an environment. And so what the brain does for you is to help you create shortcuts, right? That shorten that process of decision making. Now, everyday life, imagine if you have to sit down and think deeply about over 35,000 plus decisions you have to make in a day. You can imagine your whole day is gone, right? And so the brain is wired to optimize efficiency. And so every single human rely on mental shortcuts. Now, the thing about mental shortcuts is they are fast, they are efficient, but they are very prone to errors. Now, the second fundamental rule is this: that context is king. And what that means is that all humans are context-driven. Our environments, the framing, what we're exposed to, time, stress, resource availability, everything around us is affecting us. So I like to say that we're actually a lot more dependent on our context than we're willing to admit, or that we're even aware of or conscious of. And that's very fundamental, right? Because your context even influences you when you're making so-called rational decisions or rational calculations. They are there, right? And the third fundamental rule is that feelings actually rule. Many of us, particularly smart people, we like to feel like, I'm quite detached from my feelings and all that. But the truth is that humans are mostly or primarily emotional beings. No matter how rational you get, we are very, very emotional, and feelings do impact and influence our decision making. So it's very important for you to bear that in mind, because our feelings and our emotions often trump our logic. So no matter how rational you get about certain things, or you think you're making decisions and all of that, your feelings do rule. Bear that in mind at all about decision making. Now, there are common biases that smart people face in decision making, and biases are generally those mental, or what you call them, mental faults, right, or cognitive faults that influence our decision making. And one general rule about biases is that you are not smarter than your biases. No matter how smart you are, no matter how brilliant you are, your biases are smarter than you. I learned this from my boss here at work. And when I heard this for the first time, it was so instructive, Because one of the pitfalls of very smart people is that feeling like, hey, I'm smart, I'm brilliant, I understand things and all of that. But the truth is that your biases are running at the subconscious level, and you're not smarter than them, no matter how smart you are. So it's helpful for you to be aware of those biases, right? And so you can catch yourself sometimes when you're being tripped by any of those biases in your decision making. Of course, a number of them are displayed here on the screen. You can see them. The confirmation bias, when you're always just seeking evidence that supports what you already believe, right? And so the truth about a lot of decisions, even research, when you engage in research sometimes, and this is one debate that goes on, a lot of methodologists or even researchers end up finding things that somewhere in their mind they've been preconditioned to look for, right? And so you realize that there's not always that value-free judgment when you're making decisions or making certain inferences from research or even everyday life, right? You just are looking for evidence that supports what you already believe or what you've already preconditioned your mind to accept. And then there's the overconfidence bias that smart people often face. In other words, you overestimate your knowledge or your control of the situation. And based on that, your overconfidence now blinds you or puts you into blind spots where you miss out on fundamental or critical information that might be helpful in you making a decision. And the loss aversion is another thing, where generally we fear loss much more than we want gain, right? That's the human nature for you. And so because of that, we might be crippled in our decision making, or we might be biased or tripped in our decision making because of our fear of losing out, right? FOMO practically everybody sort of experiences that FOMO, right? That fear of missing out. And anytime you have to make a decision and you realize that you're going to lose out in a particular way, you tend to just cringe at that decision making. And then present bias is another thing where we tend to prioritize immediate gain over long-term benefits. And almost all of us suffer this. So maybe you're even trying to lose weight, for example, and then you get into the gym the first day, second day. And by the way, someone said something that the most used equipment in the gym is the mirror and not the dumbbells and any of those. It's just the mirror. It's what most people just, any small lift, you look at the mirror. Hey, are my packs showing now? Are this going there? Right. But oftentimes, because of our emphasis on present benefits, we tend to make poor decisions. And then anchoring effects is another thing. And a lot of times, salespeople use it a lot, or those who negotiate do this a lot, when we rely too heavily on the first piece of information that you encounter or that you get. So imagine you are in a sales conversation or you're negotiating, and then you know how you go and haggle in the market, and then the person says, well, okay, this thing goes for, or the person says, oh well, the negotiation, the person says, all right, this thing goes for 75,000 naira. Now, the moment they say 75,000 naira, you don't want to price it. It already conditions the extent to which you can price or you can negotiate, yeah? And so that's also something that influences our decision making. Now, there are small changes that you can make, okay, to help you avoid poor decisions. Now, note the word avoid, right? Because the truth is that the tendency for poor decisions are always around us. And while I'm not promising you that you totally and 100% be completely devoid of making poor decisions, at least you can avoid them, right? Just small changes. And this is what Behavioral Insights is really about, right? How small changes can help result or translate into massive effects, whether it's a personal life or career or policy or whatnot, all right, organizational, as the case may apply. Now, Warren Buffett said something very critical. He says that outstanding long-term results are produced primarily by avoiding dumb decisions rather than making brilliant ones. So you're smart already. We know you're smart. So don't even try to impress anyone by trying to make smart decisions, okay? If you are smart enough to avoid making dumb decisions, then over the long haul, you realize that you're better off, right? And then and the same thing that, I mean, you can extend this thought, whether it's personal life or even to politics, if you want, that if we're smart enough politically or economically to just avoid making dumb decisions, right? Consistently over time, then it builds up to remarkable long-term effects or long-term results for us. But hey, It's not always the case for most people. Anyway, just a few little things you can always do. Number one is you need to pause and reframe, okay? It's healthy for you to sometimes learn to delay big decisions and try to re-examine them from a different perspective. I remember hearing once that, what's his name now? Amazon, Jeff Bezos. Yes, Jeff Bezos said something quite instructive some years back, and he says that he doesn't make any major business decision beyond a particular time in the mornings. The moment is already about 11 a.m. or thereabout. For that day, he's not making any major business decision again. And the reason is because for him, as far as he's concerned, the early hours of the day is freshest, is smartest, he has the best, he has the most energy, is relaxed, he's not yet distracted by many things, million things that are calling for your attention, right? And so beyond that time in the morning, he doesn't make any major business decision. He shuts down and just makes mundane decisions every day, operational decisions here and there, and just moves on. All right. So it's helpful to always pause and reframe your decision making. It's okay to delay big decisions, right? You don't have to jump into it. You don't have to be pressured to say, I have to make this right now, right now, right now. Okay, it's okay sometimes to just pause and think. Then pre-commitment is another important thing. In other words, you making or structuring your environment such that you can automate some decision making in advance. So you lock in good choices ahead of time. So you know what good choices are ahead of time, such that it is not when you need to make a choice that you're not making a choice. The truth is this about decision. Oftentimes, it is not the point where you make a decision that you actually made that decision. The truth is that you've been preconditioned over time to make a decision in a particular way. So by failing, for example, to organize yourself, organize your circumstances, organize your time in such a way that you already identify in advance what a good decision might be, and then you lock that down somehow, it might be difficult for you. By the time you get to the point of making a decision, your refusal to make that decision ahead of time then put you on the spot, and they can make a snap decision, a snap judgment that may then result in poor decision making. So, for example, if you're going to buy something, for example, if you decide that you have a budget range that you will not go above ahead of time, when you get to the point of making that decision, then it helps you, all right? Because you know that no matter how attractive or brilliant or beautiful this looks like, you know, okay, I already made that decision ahead of time. I'm sorry, I will not go beyond this budget frame. I can't expand beyond this, and that's that about that. It happens to me oftentimes. I go to this mall, for example, I want to buy something, I pick different things, and then I get to the mall, I get to the counter, and I realize that what I have picked perhaps is like 35,000. I say, no, I'm not spending more than 30,000 today. And then usually I have to banter with the attendants, and then they just go ahead and remove some things, and then I'm fine. But it was because I made that choice ahead of time. So pre-commitment always helps you. Then nudge the environment too. In other words, for example, you can decide that you place healthier food around you, all right? If you're too tempted to drink a particular soda, type of soda, you can decide that, okay, all your fridges will be devoid of that soda no matter what, all right? So just simple changes in your environment can make a lot of difference in that, right? Then, of course, diverse feedback also helps when you seek, and I'm running out of time, I'll wrap up now. So when you seek counsel from or people or perspective from people around you, it helps. In fact, sometimes smart people, particularly when you're working in a group of smart people, there's something I learned from my boss here about the powers of team refresh, where all of you are smart, right? And all of you are smart, but you don't know that by virtue of being smart together, sometimes you suffer from what you call groupthink, right? Or that bandwagon effect. All of you are thinking in a particular direction. And so no matter how brilliant something looks, by bringing someone that does not seem as though they have deep insight into what you're talking about, just bring them in and just run that idea by them. You will be shocked by what you've missed out. All right. And then sometimes what you call use if and then plans. In other words, in ahead of time, you can plan your response ahead of time. So if I get stressed at this particular time, this is what I'm going to do in advance. When I get hungry, this is what I'm going to eat in advance, okay? When I feel pressed to make a decision, I'm going to call this person first. When you make those responses, those planned responses ahead of time, you sort of safeguard yourself from making very poor decisions. Okay, so I'm wrapping it up by giving us a simple formula here for better decision making. Okay, and it's very simple. It says effective decisions equal to clarify, check, and commit. Clarity, checking, and commitment. Okay, so clarify simply means that you need to be very clear on what decision you're making, right? So what is the outcome? What are you really after? What do you really want? You know, sometimes when you discuss with people, and people tell you that you have to make a decision right now. Hey, the truth is it really urgent or not? Sometimes it's very important for you to be able to differentiate between or distinguish between what is urgent and what is really important at a point in time. So don't get easily carried away by the way someone is presenting an information to you. It's very important for you to clarify what exactly you're getting into. Very important for that. And the second is to check, right? Check, no matter how brilliant the choice you think you're making is, it's good for you to always check, am I experiencing it? Is there any kind of bias that I might be subject to here? I don't want to get into the details of what systems 1 or systems 2 thinking is. If time permits, we can talk about that. But the point is that the part of you that makes snap judgment or snap decisions, sometimes it's good for you to just check and question that part. Why am I making this decision this way, right? We have the bias checklist that I've shared with us. You could always take a look at more biases and be very sure of, am I experiencing any kind of bias here? Am I even making a decision under stress? Because that again can really influence your decision making. And then making commitment ahead of time, right? Pre-commitment tools always help you in making any decisions, so that when you get to the spot, on the spot of the moment, it is a decision that you have made ahead of time that helps you to make a better decision at the point when you have to make quick snap judgment. My closing thought: smart people make dumb decisions not because of lack of intelligence, but because of human wiring. And all of us are wired this way. Okay. No matter how smart you are, you're not immune. But by applying behavioral insights, it's possible for you to design small and practical interventions that can shift you from being error-prone to making wiser choices. So I'm going to stop here and yield the floor to Rebecca. I've taken extra minutes for my presentation. I apologize for that. So Rebecca, please, I think the floor is open. If anybody has got questions or any reactions, I'll be happy to indulge. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Femi. I'm forced to give you a round of applause because that was really insightful. That was beautiful. Thank you so much. We have questions. In the Q&A session, and I don't know if you can see them, or let me just read them out so you can just take the questions and give us responses too. I think I have a question too, but let's go with this. Someone here is asking, how then can we differentiate a genius from a smart person, since a smart person might be biased in decision making? So what do you have to say about that, sir?
Well, I think that it would be helpful if I understand the context from which this person is asking the question. If you're supposing that geniuses don't make mistakes, you might be wrong, right? If you're supposing that geniuses don't, and it's very simple. If you take a simple look at history and you look at those super smart people, you realize that oftentimes some of the decisions they make end up being very, very stupid, sometimes even fatal, right? So the fact that one is a genius does not imply that you might not be prone to making a mistake or something. You're a genius, you can be equally biased. All right. In fact, one of the problems that geniuses tend to face is just that problem of overconfidence, right? There is nobody, no matter how smart they are, that's not immune. The simple truth is that because we are largely a product of our context, smart people who make better decisions learn how to use the context to help them. And so some of the examples that I gave about, for example, where you are double checking things or you're getting diversified perspectives from people might just be useful for you. So if the person who asks this question can provide a bit more context, perhaps to help me better, but I think if the background to this question is, the thinking is maybe a genius, geniuses don't make those mistakes, and it's not true. Geniuses do make very, very funny mistakes that you look at and like, oh, wow, how did you end up doing that? Right.
Okay, thank you so much for that wonderful response. I mean, genius are also human beings. So I have a question for you, and I want to believe that this question may be in the heart of someone who may be shy to just put on their mic and ask a question. But this question,
I saw your hand. I saw your hand was raised, but I don't know who the person was. But hey, you can go on, just in case. Yeah. All right.
afterwards. In situations that, for example, leaders are believed to always make decisions on their foot, like they are always making decisions quickly. And you had spoken about the fact that one way you can avoid making dumb decisions is by pausing and reframing and reflecting and all whatnot. So in situations whereby you don't have the time to pause as a leader, how do you come up with a smart decision that's not detrimental to you or anybody around you?
All right. So there's an element of, the truth is this, right? Even when leaders make decisions on the spot, or people who do that, or even leaders generally, the truth is that there is a dimension of training or pre-training your decision-making faculty in advance. And so those leaders, oftentimes you realize that any leader that makes very good snap judgments has trained himself or herself over time in making very good snap judgments. All right. So you realize that the more these leaders take time, or initially it's like you're training a muscle, right? At the initial stage, in making very smart decisions on the spot might require you to make some effort, take some extra time and all of that. But you realize that the more you practice that, over time, it shifts to your subconscious. And then this person seems to just be, oh, I can make decisions right on the spot. But it wasn't always that way, right? There's something about a trained intuition that over time, by the consistent use and practice and deliberateness, after some time, you realize that your intuition has become better trained. Okay, let me give you an example. I worked with a boss some years ago, and for some reason, he always seems to be able to peek way ahead if something is going to go wrong. He just always, no matter how much all of you have dotted the I's and crossed the T's, he will just come and ask you a question. And when he asks you that question, you realize that, oh boy, why didn't I think about that? Even with all my meticulous planning, right? But the truth is that it took him some time to get there. This is someone that has done that repeatedly over time. He had conditioned his mind to be a devil's advocate, if you may, and look at what is I was tempted. No, I'm trying hard not to go down this lane, but I think I'm forced to. So let me just say very quickly. So here's the thing: there is for all of us, the way we think, we think in two patterns. There is your snappy, fast, quick decision-making part of your mental faculty, which is popularly called system one. And there's system two thinking, which is more deliberate and conscious and requires effort. I dare say that if you have not practiced consistently over time deliberate thinking in decision making, right, you're going to end up keep making faulty snap decisions. But if you practice deliberate thinking in making decisions that are tough or critical, after some time, your system one becomes trained, right? That way. So already now you're just prepared. It looks like you're very super smart, but it's actual practice over time. So those decision making are not what people are born with. No, it's something that as the people sort of acquire over time by deliberate practice. So that's how it is. So such leaders, I bet you, they've taken time over the years to make deliberate, thoughtful decisions, effortful, and then eventually it looks like they're doing it effortlessly. They're making very good decisions effortlessly, right? Rebecca, I'm done with that. Yeah. If you're speaking, you're muted. You're muted.
Oh my God. Thank you so much, sir, for that very wonderful question and answer. That was really, really insightful. I think I'm really satisfied with that. And thank you so much for this very, very insightful session. Even though I felt attacked when you talked about the fact that some people, research, research has shown that people who go to the gym, the mirror is used more than the actual equipment. I felt attacked, and I know I'm not the only one, but then it's fine. It's okay. Thank you so much for that. So, I don't know if we have more questions in
Yeah,
the
I see one
chat
question
box.
there. I see one question here in the Q&A box, if you can say it. Let me just read it out. It
Please,
says,
can
how do
you
you make smart decisions outside the influence of a superior, especially when it looks like it's good, it goes against their decision? For one. Then number two, how do you respond when it looks like the decision of your superior makes every other team member look bad? Well, so first, my first response to the first part of the question is, you say, how do you make smart decisions outside the influence of a superior, especially when it looks like it goes against their decisions? So again, this is one of those pitfalls that we experience sometimes in decision making, right? And it's a problem of leadership in this case. Yeah, effective leadership is part of effective leadership is making room for people around you to be able to make or sort of second guess some of your decisions, right? And I think I've been privileged to work with some of the best leaders in this regard, where they're not afraid for you to question or at least find out what the decision is, or I mean, really about. Yeah. So, but if you happen to, unfortunately, quote unquote, work with a leader who it appears not to give the room for you to be able to even question decisions and all of that, you've got to be very emotionally intelligent. You would now require higher level of emotional intelligence to be able to deal with such leaders, because then you can't just say, hey, let everything just go bad. Because I mean, there's something called 360-degree leadership, right? Where you can lead from middle up, and then, and not just necessarily feel stuck because of the way leadership is, right? So you would require high level of emotional intelligence in being able to deal with such leaders when you're working or relating with them. Yeah, and if decisions of a superior always makes every other person look bad, that's already tending towards toxicity. And I'm not sure how. I mean, there are different ways you can always deal with that. I don't think I have all the answers to dealing with toxicity around relationships or work relationships and co. But the truth is, if you work with a toxic person, you work with a toxic person, you've got to find ways to address toxicity at workplace. Sometimes it's about being very upfront about this thing. And who says you have to remain in that environment anyway? If push comes to shove, hey, you can take a bow, right? The simple truth is that if you work with a leader, and it's not always as simple as that, but I'll end by saying this: if you work with a leader, if you work in a place and you think that it is extremely difficult for you to make inputs or contributions, and it's extremely difficult for you to make any meaningful contribution, I mean, hey, you don't have to suffer from the sit tight syndrome, right? You can take a bow if you don't think it's conducive for you, and move on from there. If you don't, then you need higher level of emotional intelligence to be able to deal or relate with that leader. And then let me now flip it. Again, you may think that you're making very smart decisions in spite of your superior. That may not be the case. You're the one that feels like you're making smart decisions, right? So again, maybe really, the problem you're encountering is that your superior expects you to think at a higher level than you are, and you're not just measuring up, right? So again, you might need to just check yourself and be sure that, hey, am I really making, am I really thinking like I should be thinking? Is my contribution as high level or as helpful or as meaningful as it should be? Because, hey, we generally tend to attribute a lot more, how would I say it now? A lot more, we tend to attribute a lot more capacity to ourselves, yes, or competence to ourselves than normal. And I'll end by saying this: that for me, one of the advantages I've experienced with some of the bosses I've worked with is how, and this is very remarkable, how that I sit in the same room with a very intelligent boss, and the way he presents or she presents her thoughts, you almost feel like, why is this person talking as though she's not sure? But you know, deep down, that this person knows what they're talking about, right? They just create that environment that makes it easy for you to either counter or interject or be divergent in your thinking and all. Yeah, I hope that helps. All right.
Yes. Thank you so much, Mr. Femi. Thank you so much for that answer. I'm going to give you a minute to give us a summary this is for those who had to join in halfway, just a few minutes. But before that, I want to drop a poll on the group. I want to drop a poll on the group. Please click on it and we'll be needing your answers. While we do that, let's see what, at the beginning of the session, we had an icebreaker question, and I would really like us to see the responses. I don't know, I'll try to share my screen now so you can just see it. Okay. So, okay, can you see it?
I can't see your screen yet, but
can you see it now? Can you see it now?
I still can't see your screen.
Oh my. Okay. Why? I'm finding it difficult to share. Can you see it now?
Not
It's
my
not
end.
showing.
Yeah.
Okay, no problem. But, from my end, we had people say disappointed, frustrated. I can say frustrated like 2 times here. Awkward, shocked, relieved. Someone said relieved. Okay, if one of your smartest moment made you feel relieved, that's still fine. Embarrassed, not so good. Someone said stupid. Oh, so sorry. Sad, shocking. So you can see that we have diverse answers here to let you know that a lot of people feel different ways when they make a smart dumb decision. Okay, so let's move to your summary, sir. Let's just give us a summary for the benefit of those that joined halfway in 2 minutes, so we can
All right.
Wrap up this completely.
I'll try to take that less than that. So first, thank you again, Rebecca. So first, an important thing is, yes, decisions are very important, yeah, because our outcomes shape all our decisions. We can't live any better than our decisions, right? And it's very important for us to understand the majority of the decisions we make are at the unconscious level. And so, and again, the fact that you're very smart does not make you immune, right? Understanding your limitation is one of the critical things that helps you make better decisions as a whole. And I would also like to say this again, that one of the most critical takeaways for me that I've learned over the years is, or in the past few months of even working here, is that you're not smarter than your biases. No matter how smart you are, no matter how brilliant you are, your biases influence your creative in decision making, right? And then finally, in order to make better decisions, it's just good for you to learn to clarify things first, and then check, all right, checking for some of the biases that you might be easily falling into, right? And then making pre-commitments ahead of time can help you make very good decisions and not stress your decision-making faculty when the time to make on-the-spot decisions come in. All right. So yes, thank you very much for the opportunity, Rebecca. I will hand over back to you and stop here. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Femi, for that. For me, my take home would be that it's okay to sometimes make dumb decisions. Like we are driving towards perfection, right? So we should not be exactly so hard on ourselves. And while we're trying not to when we're trying to make brilliant decisions, we should focus on not making dumb decisions. I think that's it for me. So if I'm focusing on not making a dumb decision, the aftermath is that I'll be making a smart decision. And I mean that's easy. So this is the end of this session. I want to say thank you for joining. I'm encouraging us all here to join our behavioral insight network. Like I said in the beginning, we are building a community of practice where people get to have um, behavioral nudges. They use behavioral nudges, behavioral insights, behavioral science to make practical decisions, life decisions. Okay, a minute, please. Okay, I don't know. Can you hear me clearly? I think someone said can hear me or see me. Can you hear and
Yes,
see me
Rebecca,
clearly?
you're audible.
Okay, all right. So we have, like I said, we have our Behavioral Insight Network membership pathway. I would love to run that quickly for us. I don't know why I'm still not able to share my screen, but I'll just read out from here. So we have the BIN network. We're encouraging you all, if you're not part of that network, you should join, because we're not just having this behavioral code sections, that's the TBC sections. These are the only package we have running on that platform. We have other packages, our Friday activities, our paper spotlight, our Monday moments where we share BI tip of the week. A lot of things are actually happening on that community, and it will be nice for you to join. And from that community, we are actually going to accelerate the members to different a different part. We call it the accelerator track. So you should be able to have attended six TDC sessions. So if you're here and you have plans of moving onto the next point of this community, you have one section recorded for you. And I'm also encouraging us to take the LMS course. I'll be sharing the link right away as well. Be sharing the link with us so that we can join. So I would like to drop the BI network link. If you want to join the community, you can click on that link to join. Just give me a moment to share the link with us right away. Okay, so this is the link to join the Behavioral Insight Network Community of Practice. It promises to be very insightful, and it's that community where you want to be if you know that you want to learn, you want to grow, you want to know more about the behavioral science. Okay, Mr. Femi, I don't know, would you like to, is there anything you'd want to add to this, or we can call it a day already?
I think I'm fine, Rebecca. Thanks a lot. Yeah.
Okay. I would want to share the link to the LMS course. There are a lot of things, a lot of courses packed there for you to just click on it. Take you some time. You can take it gradually. Just digest the things that are there for you to learn. They are also behavioral insight inclined as well. Okay. A minute, please. Let me share the link. Okay. So again, I'm going to say thank you all for joining. We have this TBC sessions bi-weekly. So what that means is that we're going to be having another section in 2 weeks' time, Thursday, 3 p.m. A flyer will be out. Our topic is ready for you. Our facilitator is also ready. And just to let you know that we're taking this TBC sections very seriously, so you can join the community. Again, I am encouraging you to join the community so you can get more information there and be a part of a growing community of practice. So again, thank you so much everyone for joining. Thank you to our professionals, thank you to our participants, thank you to every one of you, and I hope to see you soon. See you in 2 weeks' time. Okay, I'm signing up right now. Thank you.